Cyrus says, I think, I got to check with Alzheimer's. I forget the name. I forget my name. I might call it Deepak says. But today we've got a very suitable man for this show because he's the kind of guy actually who's pioneered or pushed for all the changes that have happened in mediums across entertainment in the last, what, 5 or 10 years, maybe a little more than that. The one and only Vijay Subramnian is named after Amitabh Bachchan in 94 consecutive films. The Subramanian, of course, I know 30 of them. They'll not be related, but I'll find out. The clan is the same. In a second, before we bring him on, I want to quickly mention I've decided to put my hand up, do something for society. So if the government is listening, I mean center and state again, I would like to be called the COVID minister and given power. I think I can handle the situation better. For example, you have to have a Viru Seva outlook, I think, to this. Watch the ball. If it's in your arc, you hit it. If it's not, you leave it. That's it. Nothing more to it. So here's my point. We divide the world into positive and negative philosophies, not tests. Positive philosophy is those who want to get on with it and work. They go out, they work, they follow certain rules and regulations, and that's it, which I will draw up. The negative ones who are worried, paranoid, anxiety ridden, and stress ridden don't go from the house. They stay in the house and they watch the cricket, they watch the tennis, the EPL is still going on, they watch whatever they want to watch and they get on with their lives, okay? Until they're ready to be positive in philosophy. This is my simple Viru Sevak philosophy, which I'm sharing with everybody. Please enjoy it. And please tell the government, if anybody knows anyone, the PMO and the CMO here in Maharashtra, tell them I'm ready to take one for the team and do this to make the world a better place. Step by step, first Mumbai, then Maharashtra, then India, and then we'll see the rest of the world. In the meantime, here's a guy who's rocking the world. He's made over $800 million already in the last 16 months while the pandemic is affecting most people, but entertainment has to continue because you got to make people laugh even when they're dying, especially when they're dying. Let's call on Vijay Subramnian with limited fanfare and music. Vijay, I apologize. This is
No
such a
worries. Thank
crappy
you. Thank
show.
you.
We can't give
Thank
you
you,
no
Cyrus.
live band. Yeah, sorry.
Nahin,
What are
it's
you doing with
going.
your? Why are you playing with your nose? You remind me of that
No, no.
guy on the cruise ship.
I have a slight sinusitis thing going on, which is a bad thing to say in today's day and age, because
Right.
people look at a little twitch in the nose, not as a twitch in the nose, but are you that guy who has it? But
Exactly. Or you can glamour it up and say you're a coke addict, which will be one step below, I
I'm
think.
oh no, that I would never
No.
do.
This podcast is very strongly against drugs, including vaccines. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We're pro-vaccine. We're sort of. We're on the line. We're thinking about it. We're influenced by Joe Rogan.
I love the 800 million in your intro. I just
Hey, it's positive karma. I'm all about that, bro. I'm saying give yourself positive energy. Keep saying it, it'll happen. It's just a matter of time.
I
But
agree.
Vijay, thank you for taking the time to dress up for this
Thank you, sir.
wonderful show.
Arey, dress up. I love it. I
I've
love it.
dragged you out of bed. I know, but we're back to before we get into the whole thing. We're back. It looks like we're back to 2020, 21. It's like Back to the Future sort of reverse situation for us again. What do you have to say about it? Are we going to get locked down? Are we already sort of locked down? What's happening?
I think aren't we already semi locked down, at least in Bombay? I mean, the way I
Yeah, the
see it,
traffic is less.
uh, I was just telling you as a build up of this call, we were hoping to kind of start office in the next week, and I feel that takes a little bit of a push further down the road. But I definitely do believe that we are amidst a quasi lockdown, if not a full lockdown. At least in my business, I know a lot of shoots, etc., are getting cancelled, and it's people are being a
I
little
I
cautious.
tell our producer to tell the guests that our listener is normally 6.5 years and younger. Using words like quasi and quasi is not going to help. Now they have to Google it and I have to take a break here for a minute while they figure out what you're saying. But no, my worry is that you are the entrepreneurs, the ones with the most positive spirit, the kind of person who, pushes through all this somehow or the other, finds a way, inventive, innovative, creative, whatever you want to say. So we'll come back and talk about that. But my only fear is now we were joking about this is the new normal, this is how we have to live with it, etc. But this really the whole cliche is a reality for us now. You're talking about shoots being cancelled, but you're still trying. From your home, you're still running your big network and you're trying to get on with life, right?
I mean, I'm always a guy who tries to see opportunity in a crisis. I know that's a bit of a cliche, but since you gave me the privilege
The
of calling
cliche
me an
show. This show is
No,
only
no, no,
about
no.
do or
No,
do
no, no.
gyara,
Since you gave me
do or do
since
punch.
you gave me the privilege of calling me an entrepreneur, I don't think entrepreneurs can see it in any other way. I think you have to see it in the form of crisis. So,
Yeah.
in fact, I am of the firm belief that the post-pandemic economy, right, will be even larger, or I think will supplement everything that's happening pre-pandemic, right? I
So
think
is it a
what I mean by
positive?
saying that, I think, yeah, I feel I feel look at the kind of the kind of advances short video has got, or look at what's happening around commerce, around the new brands that are happening. You have what, 50 unicorns that have been minted in the last 1 year, who are
That's
new
true.
internet
Against the
companies
run of play. That's true.
against the run of play. No, no. So I think let's not dumb it down. I think the situation is grave. We are living in some of the toughest times, but what choice do we have? I mean, our only choice is being optimistic and trying to ensure we make the best of what's given to us. And I think we
Uh,
managed to do. Sorry,
I want to interrupt because you said optimistic, and that is another company. You are Collective Artists
artist network.
Network, known
Correct.
as the Collective. That's the
Correct.
abbreviation we are told to
Correct.
use. So please,
Correct.
people, Optimistics is somebody else altogether. They are also featuring on our podcast soon. Back to
Superb.
you, sir. I'm sorry. I like
Mm.
an infant will interrupt you. You can just ignore it and carry on and just be loud. By the way, what are
Cyrus,
you drinking?
for all of us who black coffee, for all of us who have grown up in the MTV era, we are
Ooh,
not very we're not unaware of your
infantile
nature of
behavior. Now it's a
conducting the
bit
room,
late.
right? So let's be clear. I'm completely aware of what I've gotten myself into. So
Okay,
there's
fair
no
enough.
issue. No, so I think there's a bit of positivity. I think we've pivoted a bunch of our businesses, and I think it's shown a great amount of progress for us. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that certain businesses of ours has grown, has not come down, has not shrunk. Yes, have your regular events and activations and your physical shoots, have all of them being curtailed a little bit, 100% yes. But I think today, with a camera on your phone, I think you have people sitting in remote parts of the country making money, right? What people loosely call as the creator economy in terms of jargons, ki boss घर में बैठे अपने आईफोन या ओप्पो वीवो से फोटो खींचो और पोस्ट डालो और पैसे कमाओ. I think that's a market that's going to increase, and I think that we've doubled down on that a little bit.
But again, it's taking from one hand and giving from the other hand at the same time. Because while you're saying the artist can continue sending something in short films or whatever you want to call it, short format, what happens to the cameraman, the light man, the technicians who would be
So
playing this entire game?
yeah, I mean, let's face it, the event industry is in a crisis, right? I mean, you would know this. You would have a lot of your friends in the event business. I have a lot of friends in the event business. That's in crisis. I think, like you said, the technicians who are behind the scenes, in shoots, of course. I mean, let's we can write a book on the number of things gone wrong, right? We can write a book about how this has killed so many livelihoods, etc. I think that, and I think unfortunately our news kind of pivots enough in that direction to say what क्या क्या फट कहाँ क्या क्या बम फट रहा है वो सबको पता है. But what's not in your control is not in your control, right? I
But
think.
yeah, I think you've started something. You know how when you hiccup and the other guy hiccups immediately for some reason at the same time? Well, you're pulling at your nose. I started pulling at my nose also, and I don't even have any sinus or anything
I
like that.
hope I hope you're not that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm the follower, the herd mentality. And what's happening now is that I hope people who are watching will count how many times we play with our nose before the show ends. It's very interesting.
Let's run a contest on that, shall we?
I think so. What the hell, like you said, we got to find some short format. This is as short as you can get, pulling nose format. New competition for the day. Before we go into your entire story, which is very interesting, let's go to the fact that your name is Vijay. And it has nothing to do with Amitabh Bachchan's character in many films when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s because you're a little younger than me.
It is a cliched name. It's a
Oh,
name because
God. This is a
it's
cliche
as
show
cliche
today.
a
Yeah.
name as it can get. It has nothing to do with it. The history of my name is I was a baby born during the Blue Star operation,
Ooh.
and my dad was serving in the north in Chandigarh, and my mom was in separated families, so she delivered me all alone with nobody around her. So my grandmother or my aunt was it at that point in time saying that in the middle of the Blue Star operation, this kid has come out. So that was the thesis of Vijay and how Vijay was born. So that it's what did my aunt say? I think she called it victorious child or some shit like that, and that's how Vijay was named. But yeah, that is the thesis behind how Vijay came about. Had nothing to do with any of my parents. My dad doesn't watch movies. My mom is a big movie buff, but had nothing to do with Vijay Dinanath Chauhan.
Although now Vijay is one of the most popular actors in the South as well in the Tamil industry. And I must
Yeah.
mention right now we've had what 3 Tambrams in this week. This is Tambram week for us. We're really,
You
we're really
guys, you guys, you guys have sort of graduated.
yeah.
So, thoda,
Damn you! If your bloody community has makes all the money and creates all the businesses,
कौन
this is
बना
our
रहा है
fault.
sir? Please, I would like to. My surname is Subramanian. It's not Shah or Trivedi. Those are the guys who really make the money. Subramanians are great. So this guy.
Ooh, let's stop while quit while we're ahead, beta. Okay, let's go back in time, before the rebirth, and which is what we're going to focus on. Let's go back to the beginning where you guys decided to get into this business. What was it, back in the 90s almost, or 20 years ago? And
2006, 7, yeah, not
tell
90s,
us
not
about
that.
how you had this idea, because, like you mentioned, MTV and all that. I think none of us had this idea of a world of talent management, of different. It's not just talent management. You actually open doors and saying these are different platforms where you can sort of showcase talent and make money. So it's the whole gamut. So what's really interesting is, where does those ideas come from? And if you could just take us way back in time, to that drinking session which started it all many years ago.
So you'll be very disappointed to know I'm a teetotaler. So there was no grand drinking session. The only drink that was being had was a black coffee and some masala chai. I think let's just, to be honest with you, we weren't an industry then. We're trying to be an industry now. I think historically, celebrities, as you call them, were all driven by
You say that with
secretary.
disdain. I like that. Yeah,
No, because
celebrity fucking
today,
tease.
how do you? I don't know how do you
Oh,
classify a
scary.
celebrity. Right?
Yeah.
It's scary. Like I mean, somebody who grew up watching MTV, watching MTV Select, watching you guys on it. For me, you guys were also celebrities, right? It wasn't that it just because you guys didn't do a feature film or you guys didn't play cricket for India doesn't make it
I tried.
historically that
Especially the latter. I really tried, but up to
yeah,
school I
that's
was
okay.
okay, and then after that I couldn't make it. Really,
Nobody's
not my
perfect. It's
fault.
fine. It's all
Selectors,
good.
the
It's all
anti-Parsi, a
good.
lot of communal issues. I'll write in my book and explain that to you. But sorry, yeah, you're right. The film
So I
stars and the
think
cricketers are the top of the
yeah,
apex
I
of the
think I
pyramid.
think what we realized was usually management was all about sitting in office and taking phone calls on behalf of your clients and sort of just ensuring their day-to-day works well, right? There wasn't any real science in terms of management, right? Like if you were a brand manager of Coca-Cola, how would you'd put devise a strategy around brand Coke. You'll have a go-to market, you'll have a sales strategy, you'll have a marketing strategy. Every person who is of celebrated fame in whatever capacity, you could be a singer, you could be a comic, you could be an actor, you could be a sportsman. You are a public figure, hence your opinions and voice stands for something, right? And essentially, why do you become a public figure? You effectively become a public figure because you dreamt of being a public figure, or you want to make a lot of money, right? These are the broad two
Or you were forced
demonstrations.
to become a public figure.
Or
There
you
were
were,
some
I mean,
people who didn't even know what was
I
happening.
would say 95% of people do it for one of these two reasons, right? कि मेरे को अपना ख्वाब पूरा करना है या मेरे को पैसे बनाने हैं. Sometimes both of them come together. I think what happens is that's when you, as a person who works behind the scenes, you have to put some science into developing that skill for them, right? When they are in the camera, when they are on the field, or when they are, practicing their vocation, what is it that you do behind them to ensure that they grow? For us, that was the insight. See, because the truth is, none of us are from the business, right? I'm a mechanical engineer from Bangalore, whose background, the reason I used to watch MTV was I was a heavy metal drummer in Bangalore, right?
What are you
That's why
saying?
I got it.
Can you
Yeah,
play
that's why I
something
got
on the desk to just prove your point?
no, sir. That is it is
What
exactly the
what sort
kind
of
of thing.
attitude, man?
It is the
I mean,
exact
if I
kind of thing. No, it's exactly the kind of things that as parents would you do to your children. Like, beta, tu gana gati hai na, tu गा लेना मेहमान आए हैं, दो गाना, and then
yes,
the
exactly.
kid
They
is
were right. Elders are
and that,
correct.
and that kid is going to abuse you internally, saying मैं क्या
That's
नमूना
fine.
दिखता हूँ. That's
That's
the
fine.
so. I think because I was rooted
So
in
Vijay
being an artist,
Subramanian, as a young boy, was an artist himself. Let's get that right. So
I was
because
an
that's
artist.
important that you've seen the other side as well. Sometimes you think people come there with suits and
Yeah, yeah.
boots and
No, no, so
MBAs and
I managed my own band for the longest time. So I got
while
into
you
the
played
art
it, while you played
while
in
I
the band.
while I
What
played
a
in the band.
what a cheapo. You didn't want to
Yeah,
get a manager. Fair enough. Yeah.
earning $50,000 a gig, you couldn't afford to pay 5,000 to a manager.
50,000 bucks a gig. Bro, I'm getting like half of that for Hyderabad. After 30 years in the business. We should
I think
talk.
I think
Go
I
on, go
think
on.
I
Sorry.
think I think you're mixing your zeros. So
I wish.
I think uh, so having seen that side of it and having understood what is it that you need, because like I said, it just goes up from there, right? Today you're a small band, tomorrow you're a big band, day after you're a big singer, and then so on and so forth. I think we understood that there is a science required here, right? This is not a हाँ जी मैं सेलिब्रिटी एक्स का सेक्रेटरी हूँ उनके पास 30 डेटे हैं आके शूट कर लीजिए. या हाँ जी ऐसे काम कर सकते हैं
Okay,
और
can I just interrupt you for a second? So, when you were playing in the band and managing the band, this is very important for us to understand. Did you have some vision about what you're doing, or you're the guy who does the accounts? यार मैं collect करेगा, मैं बात करूंगा
no
इनके
no
साथ or whatever. Or were
so
you
my
thinking like,
my
how can
my
I take this further? Because that's like a different deal
no,
altogether.
so I'll tell you my logic. My logic historically has been build something large, money will follow, right? I have not gone after the money first historically. I mean, that's my mental psyche. It could be different strokes for different folks. But I just wanted to say, okay, can I do something really large, right? So the day we opened for Iron Maiden in Bangalore, for me, that was a dream come true,
What?
right? Yeah,
Are you kidding? Your
yeah.
band opened for Iron
My
Maiden.
band, my band opened.
Wow.
So
What was the band
one of my
called?
it is a band in Bangalore called Synapse, Synaps.
Okay,
So
this was that late 90s sort of where Bangalore had a lot of these bands
early
coming out of it.
early to mid
Pune, Bangalore
2000s,
seemed to have a lot of the rock culture and metal
early
culture.
to mid 2000s, early to
Correct,
mid
correct.
2000s. So I think when you looked at it, that let me sorry, yeah, I think some notifications are popping up. Let me just
Don't worry about the
shut that.
notifications. The government is anti-heavy metal. Now you opened
Yeah,
your mouth, there'll be trouble.
no.
Yeah.
So I think for me, so that's where we realized. I mean, for me, that's where my roots in entertainment began, right? So I mean, I would always say that the top 5 to 8 days of my life were my marriage, my kids getting born, and probably opening for Maiden
सही
would
बोला
feature
बेटा
right.
in time you put the priority correct. You got saved
Sir,
by the bell there. But I was just
sir,
want to go back for a second because you mentioned Iron Maiden. These interesting things, these little side things actually tell you why a guy gets successful, I feel, because later on the second half is much more easier to predict once you are successful. But I'm just trying to figure out how a guy who's from a mechanical engineering background, the typical 90s 2000 kid of that era in that sense, you are managing a band, but that's your hobby. Even the managing part is a hobby. It's not even part of becoming a mechanical engineer, what you should have done via academics. So just tell us, how did you the Iron Maiden gig? How would you get that? I mean, did you use your spirit of
yeah.
enterprise to
So I mean, you would know them. See, I think we were good. We were very good. So that is a very important thing. We were a good band, and I think B, I took it upon myself to sort of go out there and market the band. See, again, did I not know कि heavy metal music में कहाँ पैसे बनेंगे? माँ हमेशा बोलती थी कि हिंदी पॉप करना चालू करो. Look at how big Euphoria is becoming. Look at how big these other bands are becoming. Why are you guys doing Metallica and Slayer and Iron Maiden and doing these heavy metal songs? Nobody's going to listen to you. But I think the fact was there is a certain stupidity in every ambition, and I think I had that. Chalo ki ek din there'll be some breakthrough in the sky, and English music will become big, and you'll make money, which never happened in our life, unfortunately. Uh, but I feel for me, the bucket list was. Pretty much directing this brand, giving it a slight identity. So I remember when I was in the band, I scored an endorsement for the band with Red Bull, right?
wow?
Yeah, because the band was a very highly energetic band, right? We were, our guitarist used to jump off stage, so we were a high voltage band. So I went to Red Bull and I said, listen, you know, we already have wings. Red Bull needs to give us more wings, right? And you guys are an energizer bunny. You guys need to be with us. And they said yes. So we didn't make any money on the deal, zero. But what Red Bull did do was they spent some money on marketing. They called us, they said that, we promote Synapse, which is a huge deal, right? If you're five boys in engineering college or medical college, and suddenly an international brand like Red Bull, suddenly you're doing a show and there are these three Red Bull girls opening up, the Red Bull cans and serving you before you go, and you have Red Bull cans on stage as you're playing. It felt good, right? It
And it's
felt good.
unbelievable that you came from the land of Kingfisher, which was like 50% of Bangalore's events, and you went for Red Bull, which was just coming up at
Absolutely.
that point. So
Again,
then it is
again, the idea there was, it matched with our vision. Our vision was we were a high voltage band. We were meant to jump off stage. We were meant to break guitars. We were
replace
meant
the
to,
guitarist.
yeah, not really. I
He
mean,
kept falling off the stage. I'm just thinking. Yeah.
we replaced a couple, but I think that's where it really happened, right? So I think a lot of my DNA and my learnings of being an agent
DNA must
of
have worked with you, by the way. DNA, the
really.
Bangalore company.
So Sunil Matthew, Venkat, Vincent
There you
Samuel,
go.
all of them,
There, I'm ringing the bells of old memories. Yeah.
all very very close. In fact, I bumped into a bunch of them in Bangalore. They're all big brothers. So regardless
So
of where
Vijay,
life.
what you're telling us through the subtext here, you may have not known actually in your conscious state because you were just looking to progress with the band, but you're already the imprint or the blueprint of what you were going to do was actually not the band as the performer, not the mechanical engineering as the academic, not anything else in corporate life that you would have thought at that point, but actually opening new doors in terms of entertainment, promoting entertainment, entertainers, platforms for entertainment. You're actually already doing that. So it's almost like you
Yeah,
stumbled upon it.
I know. So I realized second year through my engineering. So I was the only guy in my batch who didn't sit for a single campus interview. So there were 113 companies who came to our college, and I didn't sit for one because I
But, but, but
realized in my I
But why
realized in
didn't
my
you?
second.
I mean, you completed the course.
I couldn't see myself sitting and coding in Infosys or Wipro or an IT company.
But what is
I
the
could.
point of spending those 4 years or whatever to do the
Sir,
damn
the
degree?
funda was simple. Now, when you're in 2000,
There are
you
no
still.
chicks in engineering. You can't sell this to me.
I think I can, and that's the reason why I would like to believe I love selling. I saw my wife, I met my wife, I'm married to her. It's 20 years hence, and I
Superb.
found what I
You've
wanted
not
in
put a foot
engineering.
wrong, beta. You are.
So
They
there
cannot
you go.
interrogate you. If
I have an answer to
if
all your
if the
questions.
terrorists ever catch you, they can't get a word out of you, sir. It was
She was the
perfect.
second. She was the second girl. Out of my batch of 180, there were three girls. She was one of the three, and that's the one I married. So I
You know,
settled in really well.
for me, this is proof you're a winner. Forget everything else. This is proof. Three chicks, 180 guys. You're top of the pyramid again. That's fantastic. That's proof for life. Okay, so
So
we'll come back to your personal life in a second. Sorry, you were saying.
so
So
I
you
think
you knew you didn't want to do an interview. You didn't
I
want to
didn't.
get
I
into
knew I
the
didn't want to do this. I knew I clearly my calling was something else. My calling was in entertainment. Now, whether that meant I'm on stage or I'm the reason of the guy being on stage was the two questions, right? And I think soon I realized. Actually, my band guys realized that there's no money in this. You can't. I mean, at best you'll do 2 lakhs a show, right? And then you split that six
split it.
ways. Where is that taking you anywhere? So there was a decision sometime that we took in the early late 2000s that yeah, we've given it our best shot, and now let's move on. And by that point in time, I was already entrenched in entertainment. I was already interning in a company called Global Sport, which was Mahesh Bhupati's company.
Yes,
Yeah, you were
I
a
remember a guy
client
called Firoz
you were a client of Global Sport for a very brief
for a very
for a
short while.
very
Yeah,
brief
yeah.
period of
They
time.
came to a yeah.
I remember seeing you on our
Firoz,
profile.
Firoz. I dealt with a guy called Firoz. I remember the name. Yeah,
Feroz
yeah,
Engineer was the name of the
yeah.
guy.
Does he
Feroz,
work for
I
you?
think, no, he doesn't.
Okay.
So that's when we saw. That's when I think the seeds of entertainment was sown very very clearly. But I would attribute all of that going. If I didn't have the band, I don't know if I would have gotten here. So I would
No, no,
attribute it to the band.
and also the fact that you played in the band, so you're seeing
Yeah,
it from both sides. I think people should also understand that you're also
yeah,
seeing it from the eyes of the entertainer, who
yeah.
you then empathize with, or when he's being
Absolutely,
too chalak with you or whatever. I'm
absolutely.
sure, again, without knowing. See, these are the beautiful stories that we have sometimes on the podcast. People like you, without knowing their karma, their destiny, sort of unfolds on its own. Not to say that you don't have your own talent or whatever, but these little things, these dots come together, and then you see that the guy comes from a certain background which prepared him for what he's actually doing now, whether you like it or not. The fact that you played in the band, the fact that you were the
Absolutely.
entrepreneur in the band, the fact that you very much wanted the band to succeed in many different ways, and you had all kinds of ideas coming out, and then it gets transferred to your next avatar, where you obviously
The fact that my first ever endorsement deal was for my own band, right? And then I would close millions and millions of them for clients that I represent, right? I think so.
yeah.
I learned to book
Also,
myself.
you had the presence of mind to not think about just cash, as you mentioned, which I think a lot of people get taken aback just looking at the flow, especially initially, that oh God, we didn't get a check here. But you
Yeah,
immediately realize that the check will come. I mean, the check is really actually secondary, because then
check will
again they
come.
took care of, they pushed the synapse name out, blah blah blah, more doors open. Who knows how that, in a
Yeah,
non-materialistic way, moved you ahead in life. But I just want to quickly point out, when you got into global sports and you guys were among the first people to sort of professionally manage and look at the whole gamut. You also were the first people to look at everybody as an entertainer, from a sports person to a circus performer. For you, honestly, you didn't think
no,
what
I,
they're
I
doing.
I I don't think we got into that early. I think that was more my vision towards the mid to between 2010 and 2020, and I think that pivot happened more on 14, 15 with the advent of mobile penetration and stuff like YouTube blooming up, Instagram blowing up, etc., etc. I feel I feel it was very clearly a duopoly for the longest time. It
Again,
was
a big word. I
it was very
told you
clearly
6.5 year average age.
it was a race between two horses, right? One horse was Bollywood, one horse was cricket.
Where to?
You
Which
would
it still
have
is. Which it still isn't to some extent. Yeah.
no, I would think there's a third element today, right? I would think the digital creator today is an element for sure. There is no doubt about it. There is that economy is booming. That economy is not booming in percentages. It's multiplying every year, every quarter. So I think for us it was very very clear that when we take up management, we are taking up management from a point of view of building careers which eventually will lead to monetization, right? But the moment you start building a business with an event with an idea of just earning brokerage, right, you start narrowing your own ability to deliver to your talent. See, because the fundamental business, and you will know this because you would have worked with many people over the years, you an artist eventually just, what does he rely on? There's a basic level trust that somebody's got my back, right? That is the fundamental feeling you can give an artist, right? कि कोई मेरा देखभाल करेगा, right? In my good and my bad time, I have this person by my back. And I think for us it was very very clear that we are here to build an institution. We're not here to build a mom and pop shop. We're not here to build any like, for example, in your entire introduction, the one thing that I really loved was you using the word collective artist network, because 20 years from now I may or may not be there, but my company will be there, right? Because, and that's not the way our business was managed historically. Our business was all about the promoters, was all about the people who are at the helm, was all about the 2 3 partners, and then they sort of moved on. But if you look at global agencies like William Morris or Creative Artists Agency, they've all been there for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. That's because they've built an institutional play, right? And that was our fundamental reason of doing this, right? And my fundamental reason as a founder, CEO, etc., is कंपनी कैसे बड़ी होगी. कंपनी बड़ी होगी, क्लाइंट्स को अपने आप अपॉर्चुनिटीज आ जाएंगे.
So the brand is bigger than everything else. The sport is bigger than
100%.
everything else, and you
100%.
never
100%.
believe your own myths as you do well. And it's fair to say that you have both these companies, that you have more than two, actually three companies that you have propelled forward.
Yeah.
You played a very very significant role. But what you're saying is you want to dumb that down and say, hey, it's more about the brand, which will the legacy
Build the
that you're going
brand.
to leave behind with the brand.
Build the brand. I mean, then the people, automatically the business will be there.
I'm personally against it. I feel that MTV should be removed and our name should be kept. Can we
That
have
I
Chinapa
agree.
Television, CTV? I think so much better,
CTV,
honestly.
Cinema Television. I mean, but also you guys were the golden era, ना? उसके बाद हुआ नहीं. Malaika,
So after that,
Saturday.
it became roadies. Then you have to be Sector 32 from Chandigarh. You get on a bike and you come. It's a whole different ball game. You should know, bro. You've got to promote these things. No, sorry to cut you there, but I want to now go into the second half. People can Google and check how you grew a company so quickly and literally so quickly. And the business was growing with you, which is again a great feeling, I think, as an entrepreneur, to literally see the movement with you. It's not like you're watching 100 years of feedback and then trying to get into it.
Yeah.
But you now the second part is we have the pandemic, and then that works both positively and negatively, because entertainment is in short supply, so you got to figure out how to do it. But at the same time, people are, as we've just mentioned at the top of the program, not willing to go. You're worried about certain groups not getting money or not being able to work because of restrictions, while some can. So take us through how you've dealt with it from 2020 and how it, since it's not going away, how you're dealing with it now.
It's a very, very simple answer. We decided that if the world is moving to the mobile, right, and their televisions, we need to go there. It's as simple as that. So there's no great science behind it. There's no moment of revelation or epiphany कि हाँ हमने एक कोई तीर मार दिया. हमको क्या पता है? हमको artist पता है. We know what an artist wants. Amazon says they know what they want from their customer. Correct? Amazon knows what they want from the customer. We know what we want from our artist, right? So today we are very clear that our fundamental definition is the largest creator marketplace in the country, right? Simple. So today, if you are a consumer stroke buyer of a creator, you come to Collective Artist Network and its group companies, and you'll find what you need, right? That could be a comic, that could be a regional celebrity, that could be a musician, that could be a choreographer, that could be a stylist, that could be a makeup artist. You'll find all, of course, the big celebrities are all there, right? But so what did we decide to do? How can you only scale it? You can only scale it in two ways. You have to put it on tech, so you remove human intervention as far as possible. So we launched our own creator platform called Big Bang Social, right? It was live April of this year, where basically brands, producers, The community can interact with creators, and creators can monetize their talent. Simple, not complicated. Put it on tech so that if you are hypothetically a makeup, if you're a chef in Surat and you want a brand assignment from Unilever, right? You can come to our platform and see if there is an opportunity for you, hypothetically, right? So that is exactly how we positioned it. The second thing we decided to do was we decided to not shy away from the OTT revolution, right? Now, OTT is both, now people usually say OTT as Netflix and Amazon. I also believe audio and this medium that you and I are discussing on are massive OTT mediums, right? People are negating the fact that audio is going to be big. People are negating the fact that animation is going to be big. So we decided to go to every space where the world might go in 23, 24. We might fail, we might succeed. uh, we for the first time brought in institutional capital into the company. So we got a global technology player by the name of Glance, which is owned by the Inmobi Group, which counts Google as one of their
This is the
investors.
cricket. Yeah.
Yeah. So Glance is now an investor into Collective Artist Network. So for the first time, we got institutional validation that okay, we are building a company, right? Because institutional investors may or may not invest in, promoter driven companies or what you would usually call as mom and pop shops. So I think that's how we set the base. So we set the base with a digital forward narrative, keeping our talent management business rock solid, so ensuring that our clients got opportunities through the lockdown. It could be through social media, it could be through OTT, all of that, right? We kept that as our base, and we built on top of that.
Okay, so let me ask you this then: as the if the pandemic, of course, no signs of that abating. If we go back to so-called old world, say 24, 23, 24, let's say, give it a year or so. Does this change again the dynamic? Because now we've
No,
moved towards mobile phones. No, but then you'd want to go back into more flesh shooting
you
and
do, but
more large scale.
that's what I've been constantly saying. Both will exist, no? You will watch Sonu Nigam live, and you will watch Sonu Nigam on a platform. Why does it have to be either
But
or?
his thing won't eat into his other thing. It won't be like he's
Absolutely.
because now he's
Well,
easy
the
access
beauty
at home
about
with a camera and minimal
nahin, nahin,
everything.
the beauty about it is if he's making 10 rupees sitting at home, if he or she is making 10 rupees sitting at home versus making 30 rupees by taking a flight, traveling, wasting 2 days, etc., he will do 10 more things at 10 rupees rather than doing three more things at 30 rupees, right? It adds up to the same thing. Today, if you're sitting in a car posting an image, you don't want to go to Jaipur to open a store. बिफोर आई मीन इन 2011-12 जब आपको स्टोर ओपनिंग के लिए सूरत या इंदौर जाना पड़ता था, सिट ऑन अ बिजनेस क्लास, गो चेक आउट, you'll make say 5 lakh rupees. Today if you're making 3 lakh sitting in your car or your drawing room doing an Instagram post, you'll let go of that extra 2 lakhs. Yeah, you're getting more.
Please give me these store owners' names. I want to
i
contact
will
them
i will let you
immediately.
know.
I mean, what the
I
hell?
will let
3 lakhs just to open the store through tech.
I'm being conservative.
Yeah. Oh, GST
So,
applicable wherever
so I
possible.
feel the debate is, I think theaters and OTT will exist simultaneously. It's not either or. I think live concerts and live shows will exist simultaneously. I feel it will add to the economy. It won't take away from it. I feel the pie has become bigger. People need to adapt to that reality that the pie has become bigger. People who are stuck in your good old ways, it's like people saying, "Boss, मैं mobile phone use नहीं करूँगा, right? In my landline से mobile नहीं." अब हो गया. That परिवर्तन has happened. You're talking about today.
Parivartan. Once again,
Parivartan.
my 6-year-olds are getting upset.
Sorry, Parivartan means
Badlav,
transformation.
badlav, huh?
Yeah.
My
So
Hindi is improving,
no
unfortunately.
worries.
Go
So
on.
I think that shift has happened. What are you waiting for? Assuming that the shift will happen. Today you have OTT guys who are turning around and saying that they've hit their 3-year subscription numbers in 1 year, right?
Yeah,
So
but
what are
that's
you
also
waiting for?
because it was diverted towards them, right? Because of the pandemic. So they just got lucky.
So my simple thing on that, Cyrus, is what is a fact is a fact. Now whether it's lucky or unlucky or conditional or
No, so
unconditional,
my
how do you?
point is that 3 years down the line, if we go back to 2018 ka jo paristhiti, since you want to talk Hindi, in that case, they will not get the numbers they're getting in 2021 because you're forced to sit at home. It's
Why
possible
not?
that again it's
Why
fractured,
not?
right?
Because by
Because people are
2023,
going out to the theaters, people are going out, there's
absolutely,
competition, you're releasing more films.
but exactly what I'm trying to tell you. Look at what's happening in theaters. Look at what happened. I think today, what is the audience been taught in the last 2 years? I can become self-sufficient at home. I don't need to go to Star Bazaar for
Correct,
my scope, right?
correct.
So convenience is also taken over, right? At a great level. Why are so many unicorns happening today? In my bathroom, I have some, and in my fridge, my house is stocked with products which technically 5 years ago I would not have known, right? So everybody needs to understand that there has been a digital fast tracked evolution. That the digital evolution does not mean that the offline evolution will change. Look at all your big companies. What are they doing? They are all marrying both. Yes, today for a theatrical, I'm not taking names. Will you go for a chota film on the movie theater? Maybe not. Will you
Unlikely,
go watch
exactly.
a Endgame? Maybe
83
yes.
Endgame,
Correct.
yeah, possible.
You will. Today, will you?
Really, it's a priority situation which is almost vulgar when you think about it, because once again, it's like the toughest guy wins or Darwinian economics.
But I also believe that I think 2008 had a leveling effect in terms of financial crisis. I think 2000 with the dot com bust had a leveling effect. The pandemic will have a leveling effect. Economies now cannot be taken for granted because your next winner can be. Look at us, Cyrus. We were a what were we? We are building a tech platform, right? We are launching commercial products and brands with some of our clients, right? These are not what agencies used to do. These were not a part of our job role. Why are we doing it? We are evolving. If you sit back and say ki boss, because what is also happening today, a brand is spending lesser and less. Okay, let me take an example, right? Where are your dil mange mores today? How many campaigns can you think of? Leher
I
Pepsi,
can't.
aha, you can't, because everything is
But that's also because I
everything.
was younger and taking in all those stuff. It's
No,
also
sir,
possible.
it is wrong. It is wrong. Today, when you do a redux on Kya Khab Hai Zindagi Mein on Cadbury, you bring back nostalgia. But you can't think of one such campaign in the last 2 years
No, I
where
can't.
you can't, because
And I can
everything has
recall
become.
everything that you mentioned. I can recall the entire jingle and everything.
Now I'll tell you why that is happening. Because today a brand manager is saying, यार मेरे को अगले 3 महीने का देखना है, 1 साल का तो बाद में देख लेंगे. तो 3 महीने का क्या काम करेगा? सोशल मीडिया में डालो, ग्लांस रोपोसो में डालो, या यूट्यूब में डालो, या इंस्टाग्राम
I
में
think
डालो,
Teen
खत्म
Mahina
करो.
Bhi is a long stretch, possibly 10 din. So some of them have been literally a few
Absolutely.
days. We just
Look
shot
at
something which had a 4-day lifeline, 27 to 31st. Yeah.
exactly my point. Na? So I think why are people looking at this with a negative connotation? I think the survivors and the thrivers will be those who sit and say, boss, the world was going in one road. Now the road has become a 6-lane highway instead of a 2-lane highway. It's a
I
good
think
thing.
the lesson from Vijay Subramanian and Sons is very simple. You have to constantly reinvent yourself and stay ahead of the game by being the word positive. We started the whole show with that, but I think it's been overdone. But more than positive, I would like to use the word dynamic. A certain dynamic energy where you're not bothered with what's happening. You're not phased by it. It's almost like that, chest out, I'll manage approach, and it comes through. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and in this break, Vijay, you mentioned advertisers and how the world has changed and they're shorter and sweeter. This is one of those long drawn out ads, so please bear with us. Here it is.
Absolutely. Love it.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On this year-end special Think Fast, Varun and Suchita give their predictions on what lies ahead for the world of business and startups in 2022. We have Manjima Chatterjee with us on Audio Gyan. She is a drama explorer and educator. Kedar and Manjima talk about the new education policy, Bengali plays, and a whole lot more. On a Cock and Bull episode of Cyrus Says, Antrish and I join Cyrus to discuss New Year resolutions, no restaurant food for cops, and COVID self-tests. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk discuss major events and trends in the tech policy space and their expectations for 2022. On Simplified, the gang looks back at how the last 12 months have passed for them personally. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. If you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, do tell a friend. The word of mouth absolutely is essential to us. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms that you've been listening to. And also, I'd like to ask everybody to check us out on YouTube. We have a number of channels going. You can find all of them on ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Cred, Bank of Baroda, CoinSwitch Kuber, and Intel. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Yes, the ad is so long, it makes our podcast look good. Vijay, we are joined now by a young entrepreneur called Silvery. Antariksh is his family given name, but he's also known on this show for various reasons as Silvery. and he's a young comedian. So before he starts talking and asking you questions, I wanted to ask you the next lot of comedians, which is where he comes from. All their shows get cancelled, etc., and it's a little tough for them or for us actually to do these Zoom shows. They don't. I know you've taught about reinventing and this and that. What's your advice to him? Because that whole medium is such a live medium, and you know better than us that you have to interact with an audience. You need the dynamic of the audience, the
That's a tough
sensibility of
one.
the audience.
That's a tough one. That's a real tough one. But I mean, my
Yeah.
question there is, for guys, I think it's easier for musicians because at times you can get lost in your own craft on stage. Like if you're really into a song, you may or may not.
I hate those guys. 15 minutes is self-absorbed.
हाँ, वो अपना गाते रहेगा, अपना banjo बजाते रहेगा, उसका कोई
Correct.
tension नहीं. For comics, I
Whatever
think
that means.
it's a lot harder, I feel, for comics. But having said that, I don't know. I mean, it's not very different from any of these specials that keep happening, right? Even there, you're recording a show, you're playing in front of a studio audience, or
But
it's like
there's still feedback. The energy
100%.
level is different.
100%. You
Because
can't
we've
take
all
that away.
struggled with trying to talk to people. We're not getting the reply. So you're
Sir,
going
वो
too
तो नहीं
fast with your
होगा.
jokes. And
That experience, I don't know how. Like to your point, you cannot replace a crowd of 10,000 singing along a song with you. You can't. That you
Yeah.
can't. Right? I think alluding to my point earlier, Cyrus, I was like, you have to find a way of making yourself comfortable rather than resigning from your art. That was more now, for example, in the case of Antariksh, hypothetically, the comedy club is shut. Hypothetically, Blue Frog is not doing shows. What are you going to do? Right? We have to find a way of finding an alternative. Right? Now, I think it'll evolve. I don't know, man. I'm just throwing ideas because the tech world throws so much shit at you. God knows this whole metaverse thing coming to life. Maybe in the next 6 months, you'll actually be able to get that feedback from your audience. Kisko pata? Microsoft Teams में बैठ के तुम Google Class डाल के लोग हंस रहे होंगे, तुमको वो feedback real time आ रहा होगा. So I definitely believe that there is, and also Cyrus and Andrew, technology is evolving at such a fast pace. I mean, so I was talking about Glance, right? I mean, Glance is basically a lock screen. Today, you as a user, if you're on an Android phone, your lock screen is talking to you. Can you imagine? I mean, your phone is locked and it's talking to you. You're not in your phone.
You're not in your phone. Pot, and the phone is like, what the hell is going on? I mean, like, that's not a good point.
So I genuinely believe
once a year I have sex, if the phone can talk to me at that point, it'll be terrible.
Yeah,
I have to take down instructions.
Yeah, tomorrow in your metaverse it might happen, right? Somebody might come and tell you, Cyrus,
we can sell that product, Silvery. We can do that. Yeah. So Vijay, I like your attitude. I think your attitude is why you're so successful. Not to blow your trumpet, and no double meaning there for you, but quite frankly, I think you're really unfazed. I think all said and done by what's happening, and I don't mean this in an arrogant way. You're unfazed in the sense that you look at the situation and say, let's work, let's see what we can do. Which I think a lot of people. This is a huge point around the world. It's not an Indian issue. They have taken this in the chin and not recovered. They've just said, "Oh shit, what do I do? How do I deal with this?" And then their whole self-esteem, self-worth goes down very quickly. We've had lots of cases like that. While you guys have been able to buck the trend, go in the other direction, and it's a lot to do with simple philosophy. After which your creativity and tech comes into it. Right. Anyway. Having lectured people enough, and they've after the ad anyway they've shut off and left us. Silvery, what do you want to ask Vijay?
I do.
You can join. He takes 25%, and
okay, that's fair. That's totally fair.
The first two feature films, they do item numbers.
I don't take 25%. I give 25%. I take 75%.
Oh, damn. Okay, worth it still, I guess.
Something. In the old Hollywood days, I don't know about Bollywood, but Hollywood definitely began like that. It was draconian and ridiculous.
Sir, but Hollywood is even crazier. By the time you pay lawyers and all of that, फट जाती है. वहाँ पर manager अलग है, agent अलग है, lawyer अलग है.
If you don't get an Avenger role, you're broke. You need an Avenger role.
ऊपर से 40% tax.
Spider-Man make billions of dollars, Vijay. Again, when other films aren't able to.
No, I think that the writing's on the wall. If it's a big spectacle, people will risk going to the theaters.
Exactly what you said. Comparing the size of the film and the scale.
100%.
That's a caste system that you're giving us. So what you're saying is good actors will be stuck on OTT, which is not a bad thing, but they'll never get the big
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is certain things that require, like you cannot watch Metallica on Spotify.
No, you can't. Well, I can't.
You can probably watch John Mayer on Spotify, right? It's as if you can watch a country band on Spotify or on YouTube. You can't watch a heavy metal outfit or on. So it's about art medium, right? You can't. So I genuinely believe that. I don't think it's a good and bad thing. That's what I want people to get.
But
I
you just
don't
mentioned
think
that once we get the 3D 4D effect with the kind of tech that's coming in, then
might
even
happen.
Iron Maiden can be absorbed because you think you're there in a sense. They
Absolutely.
transport
So
you
when
there.
that now, luckily, we have people ready to spend billions of dollars to change habit. Let them spend their money, and if our habit changes, we'll change along with it. क्या करेंगे? वो
These
हमारा
these people aren't in the ministry, as far as I know, spending these billions of dollars to help change habits. But
it's
sorry to interrupt, but let's should we get the AMAs
yeah.
in because we'll have a
Yes,
few
absolutely.
questions.
I have a
Aspiring
question before
artists.
that. I have a
Please
question
do.
before that, Vijay. Uh, how does an artist know that it's time that they get professional management? Like, how would you, at what level
It
should you
work.
be getting
Yeah,
it?
I think the moment I don't think it's a question of what point. I think it's more a question of understanding key. I think every artist needs professional management. Let me put it out there. I don't think any artist
Okay.
doesn't need professional management because it's about efficiency, right? If you're taking your own calls and raising your own invoice, you're wasting your time. Then you're not an artist,
Hmm.
right? Then you figure out how to do it. What scales of management is different, right? So I'll just put in a without any intention, just to put it in context, I'll put in a plug of our story. The reason why we started Big Bang Social is for those artists who may not be earning crores or even lakhs, a few lakhs a year, but they need help, right? So you see potential, you see aspiration, you see dynamism there, and you go and give them the infrastructure, right? But I definitely believe that for artists who have made it a decision for this to become their career, right? You need to have somebody to handle the non-art part of your work, right? And whatever form of art that may be. The issue happens is a lot of it is based on जब मैं इतने पैसे कमाऊंगा तो मैं 10% या 15% या 20% दूंगा. But I think
Hmm.
that's an investment every artist should make earlier on. And I think, and it's happening, Antariksh. It's not like it's not happening. Today, you have 23, 24-year-old kids managing, small cohorts of YouTubers or TikTokers, etc., etc. It's happening. It's not like it's not happening. But I definitely believe that. So that is to Cyrus's point. My fundamental aim and ambition is to make management an industry, like how events did it with EMA, right? They got an industry status. I want to ensure that in 25, 30 years from now, this is a core employment led industry which is giving jobs to people. Like Cyrus said, you have a background for camera crew, for lightmen, for spot boys. We don't have an industry. There is no industry body for agents like you have in the West. In West, you need an agent to license, right? You have a license model there. Why can't we do it? I mean, if we are the custodians of billions of dollars, and let's face it, through our systems, billions flows, right? Billions and billions flows through our system. And we don't make that kind of money. It just flows through us, right? If that is the kind of if that is the kind of influence that this industry has, the more this becomes an institutionalized base, right? Which is where for me getting this, raising this round of money or whatever we did here was so critical, so that it becomes legit. So more than two things, to answer your question, Antariksh, I don't know how many kids see management as a career option. So I want to go to colleges and say it is a career option. I am next year onwards, we are going to go to B schools, we are going to go to colleges and say, boss, this is a career option. This is not a चलो it didn't work on advertising, event production में काम नहीं मिला तो चलो अभी मैं जाके. It is advertising. Today the management business is more relevant than advertising. There's a reason why the advertising guys are bleeding. So I think both the talent ecosystem and the management ecosystem needs to understand your time is now.
My new book, Vijay Subramnian Killed Advertising, and explains why.
My very good friend who's an IVM podcaster runs a podcast called Advertising is Dead. So
There you
Oh,
go.
Varun
There you
Dugirala. Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Varun's a
don't
brother.
forget, he's
So,
also from the
yeah,
MTV stable, so we are partly
yeah,
responsible for that
yeah.
monstrosity. Yeah, and he was such a quiet kid. Who knew he'd do so well in life? I really should have respected him
Have you
growing up.
seen Varun Dugirala on Instagram right now? It's quite a thing.
What
Oh,
does he
yeah,
look
yeah.
like?
Wow,
Yeah, there you go.
a fledged influencer now, man. Like
Yeah, yeah.
working out
Legit,
and
legit,
so many
legit.
things. Yeah, pretty cool.
Really? Let's get him back on.
Yeah,
We had
absolutely.
him on
We
a
should.
year back.
We
Yeah,
we had
if
him.
we
Yeah,
can
we had
afford
him
him.
last.
Now he's become a big influencer. Now he's
Yeah.
charged. Yeah. Okay, shall we get a few questions in?
Yes, absolutely.
Especially
This first one
anybody wants.
comes in from Girish Patil. He says, "Do you think there is a lack of quality Indian content on the streaming platforms like Netflix and Prime, especially in Hindi?"
No,
Oh,
I think it's getting better. I think people. I mean, everybody watched Patal Lok.
shows like Delhi Crime and all are pretty decent,
Everybody
aren't they?
watched Family Man. Everybody
Family
watched
Man,
these
one
shows.
the first.
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
these are the first
See, I'll tell
series.
you to Girish's question. I'll tell you what has changed. What has changed is today creators don't look at OTT as a money gap to fill between two feature films, right? Previously क्या होता था कि अगर आपको फटाफट पैसे कमाने हैं जाके एक OTT शो कर लो, OTT वाले पैसे देंगे, right? That narrative has changed. Today OTT has become a very very clear outlet for creative exhibition, right? So today you have big makers on these platforms, you have big actors adopting these platforms. So to Girish's question, this quality is only going to improve over the next couple of years because some of the quality of creators that are coming onto platforms is just absolutely A plus, right? So you have your equivalents of your Steven Spielbergs in India. I won't name people, it's not right, but you
Name.
have. नहीं सर पागल हो, मेरा धंधा है, क्यों मार रहे हो?
Huh.
You know, so you have you'll see that change, and you're already seeing it happen. So no, it's a very clear industry attempt to make quality products for OTT, and OTT and platforms are encouraging the industry to do that.
And let me tell you about Girish because he's a regular and he's somewhere in the US, as far as I remember. He is actually a specialist, a veterinarian who specializes in post-mortem of animals. Now that's a niche. When your animals die, he tells you why and how. So
And
remember,
you know,
folks.
and you know your show too well if you know the absolute history of everyone on your AMA.
We
My
have
God.
3 people writing in, basically. So, we're like
Yeah,
family. We exchange cards, greetings and stuff. Okay, next one.
yeah. All right. Next one comes in from Vineet Khandelwal, another one of our regulars. He says, "Have Vijay and Cyrus created NFTs for any of your work, and have you bought an NFT?"
I have never bought an NFT. Have we created an NFT? Yes, we have. Are we creating more
Wow.
NFTs? Yes, we have. So, yes, we
Okay,
are.
what is your current NFT which is already listed or sold?
So we co-own a platform called Social Swag. It's a platform that exists on masterclasses, shoutouts, etc. We just launched our 83 NFTs on Social Swag, so you guys can log on to that and have that conversation there.
He's using his personal podcast to market himself. What the hell's going on behind our back, Silvery? And we're so stupid. We're like, yeah, applause.
AMA is being asked, so I mean the
Yeah.
questions are specific, so answers have to be
Hey,
that.
these are plants, I tell you. These are
I mean,
plants.
he is his
He's
band's
your guy.
manager.
Vineet
He was his
Khandelwal
band's
is a
manager.
regular. So
a
clearly,
self-promotion.
your guys are sabotaging your own show. What can I do?
Damn it, you're too smart for our podcast. We gotta dumb down the next guest. Next.
Shoaik Bagchi says, "In India, you first become an engineer, then think about what you want to do in life."
I mean,
Sigh.
he's spot on, man. How many people we were in the podcast? The amount of engineers who wasted that degree. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
and MBAs. These two
Yeah,
lines.
but you know
They
what?
should arrested Vijay.
नहीं,
There
sir,
is
अलग
some
बात
kid
है.
who's struggling in
यही-
Kanpur because you ate up that
यही
seat
po-
and now you're doing something else.
नहीं गलत. यही podcast आप 5 साल बाद करोगे with the guys who are getting into college now. It'll see what even right up till 2010. What choice did you have? You needed a degree, na? So it was either BCom or a medical science or an architecture or some branch of engineering. It was till about 2006-7. It was still your safest fallback. That doesn't exist anymore.
I put it this way: life is supposed to be about data. 21st century, as we go into whatever year we're in, okay, all about data. You guys live off data. Look at the data; it tells you everything. It's a science. Now, the data we are getting on the podcast is all successful people like the Vijay Subramanians. I'm not saying that many of you, but there are a few. Are all coming from engineering or MBA backgrounds who turned their back and shunned the education that their parents suffered to give them, and then did something completely left field. Boom.
Does that tell you something about what we did wrong or what the education system
I don't
is doing?
know. I'm scared because across middle class India we're telling our kids karo ye karo padhai karo ye karo wahan pe seat milna padega, all that, and then after all that you twist And because you're successful, you're going to confuse a lot of people.
No,
They're like,
but
I want to be like
I think modern day parenting is also shifting a little bit, Cyrus. Like for example, we just moved our kids from an ICSE school to a IB board because I didn't want. I mean, my wife and I didn't want to go through the whole rigmarole of ratta maro, pado, fir puke
Yeah,
karo.
true.
Wo, I
But
think
IB
so.
also has exams. Let me tell you, since I
It
have
does.
one kid.
I mean, I know it does, but I find the curriculum there a lot more liberal
Yeah.
from my
It's a
perspective.
mix
I
and
think,
match. It's a mix and
yeah,
match.
it's a
It's not
mix and match.
strictly as bad as what
Because
we
the
went through.
truth of the matter is, today you ask me to go back and do calculus or trigonometry or ask me my
Really.
heat and mass transfer questions on fluid dynamics. I'll be like, who the hell knows this? I mean, I'm not
Oh,
even
A
interested.
square plus 2AB plus B square. That haunted me all my life. I couldn't get sleep,
And
yaar. I'm like, what
Sin
do I do
theta
with
by
this?
cos theta
I need to do a
equals to
complete
tan
routine with
theta.
A square. Yeah,
Doesn't
really.
work.
Guys,
How
you
dare
won't
you,
believe this.
education? How dare you?
You won't believe
Yes,
this.
sir.
What are the odds we're talking about this today? Because just last night I saw Three Idiots again, and all of this they talk about in Three Idiots, like
Three
following a
idiots there,
passion,
three
not
idiots here,
yeah,
idiots everywhere.
yeah. I know. Like, what are the odds though? That's crazy. Next one comes in from Aditya Sharda. He says, with the OTTs and streaming boom, do you think there's a threat with them coming into the space and managing artists with long-term contracts and exclusivity? They've done a similar thing in the West.
Do
I
you
think
think
this is
there's a
an older
threat?
question. You already passed this question in a sense.
Uh,
It was sort of there. You've already gone ahead of that in a way.
Yeah, I don't
The
think
long term, from an artist
and
point of view, long term
and let
contract.
me put it out there at the cost of cannibalizing our business. If you are holding back your artist because of a contract, your relationship is already broken.
That's the right answer.
It is very
Absolutely.
clear. Our entire business, if I have to manage Cyrus has to trust me and want to work with me. He's not a bar of soap which I can
Yeah.
keep in my
You got to
bathroom
grow
for as
together,
long as I want.
especially when you have those big names, etc. You got to grow
So
together.
I think number one thing, aspiration to all aspiring agents, managers, etc. Please use your contract as an audit compliance process and not as a business practice process. There are two different things. You will hold back talent on, and if you're not happy, if your talent's not happy with you, it's best you part ways for them to come back to you later, as opposed to you getting into a difference and you getting into an irreversible break, which will
Ego
happen if
issues.
not.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
never do that.
Although I think Aditya is talking about the Sicilian contracts. Where once you give out that contract, it has to be carried out. Yeah, that's a
We've
different
never
type.
signed any of them, so I won't be able to.
So let me ask you this: is slightly offline, not offline, but off what we're talking. If you had a big star today, and there are issues with the big star, and some of these stars become stars overnight, as you mentioned, that third group of people. They literally on Saturday evening they're stars, and they weren't on Saturday morning. Would you then? How would you handle that situation? He's of course wants to change the terms and conditions because it's now in his interest to give you less. How would you deal with him?
There are honestly only two variables, and I think today it's easier for me to answer that question as opposed to some of the other agencies or managers because we've built a certain amount of scale. See, we are very clear about our value proposition, right? So we know that we are not getting overpaid or underpaid, right? So that the fact of the matter is what we are charging is what we're charging, right? And if you want the kind of service that we are in a position to give, then you have to pay for it, right? Otherwise, we are happy to not have that conversation, right? So that's a stand that we can take hypothetically, right? But a lot of times, I think you're negotiating only on two things, right? You just want your client to be exclusive with you, and then there's a commission percentage, right? These two things are the only two holy grails for agents, right? Without either of them, there's no point in building. Now that is where you build stickiness by giving them access to things that one man can't. Hypothetically, if you have a single manager, he cannot be in 50 rooms at one time, not possible.
Correct.
But if you have a 250 man
Network.
company network, then you will be there. So I think our answer to that is slightly different compared to the others.
So Silvery, basically Vijay can't manage you right now, but I can. So you start with single management,
Okay,
then you move up to network. That's what we're going to do.
done.
All right.
Sorted.
You heard what he
Great.
said. You get 25% of nothing for now, but things will
Yeah,
change.
that's either way. It's
Uh,
all zero. Yeah, it's no worries.
yeah.
Next comes in from Harvesh Kasad. He says, "Hello all. What is your take on Novak getting
Harvespa.
medical exemption to compete in
Harvespa.
OZ Open?"
Oh,
Harvespa, yes.
Punjabi. Harvespa.
Harvespa, yes. Hello all. What is your
Yeah.
take on Novak getting medical exemption to compete in OZ Open?
Well, it was
Sorry,
always.
the Aussie Open. Does it show sports administrators will go out of the way to ensure cash cow is what matters for
Well,
them?
talking about the Aussie Open, they were very clear that they were not going to bend over for Novak, but they did have this window where medical exemption is allowed for, and whatever that ever means. So it looks like an understanding was reached outside the arena of Melbourne's tennis parks.
Yeah, and really, sports federations have their own modus operandi, which cannot be questioned. So
You're a marketing man. It's a huge. I mean, you want this guy. He's world number one. You've got a Federer's out
100%,
of it. He sells. He puts bums on seats. He's
100%. I mean,
world
when
record
we
for
used
Grand
to
Slams if he wins.
when we used to run a tournament with Global Sport back in the day called Sunfeast Open in Calcutta,
Yeah.
we had a very clear clause of getting one marquee player per year. So we had Martina Hingis for 1 year. Then
Yes,
we did.
and you invited us at MTV to come and shoot that. I remember I was
Yeah, I
standing so
remember.
close to her. What a gorgeous woman, and I mean this in a nice way. Before you send me messages, and what a powerful hit of a tennis ball. I didn't understand that women hit
Netaji
the
Indoor
ball.
Stadium, Kolkata.
Yeah, oof. There was something
She
else, bro, because we got to shoot them from the sideline.
unfortunately, I remember she crashed out in the first round or second round. It was a
I
heartbreak.
can't remember the details. I was just stunned because I was trying to get close and talk to her in between points, and then suddenly one ferocious forehand, like a Shoaib Akhtar delivery, literally just whipped through, and I was like, okay, this is a powerful woman, no doubt about that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
One
Let's
last,
get one or two more before
yeah,
Vijay has to earn
uh,
money. He can't waste time on
sure.
podcasts.
No,
So the
no.
last one comes in from Tarun Kaushik. He says, I recently watched Call My Agent on Netflix. It was a really fun show. Wonder how true it could be. Any
It's I am not
Vijay?
allowed. I mean, it's a Tarun Kaushik. You can hit me up on Instagram for me to give you a complete candid and offline answer to that.
For a price. For a price.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're an
The maker-
influencer too now. You
the make-
create
the-
influencers, so you're
The
the
maker of
influencer.
the maker of the show is a very, very close friend. His name is Deepak Dhar, and he runs Bani J.
Oh,
So,
Deepak Dhar made the show. Again,
Deepak
MTV.
made-
God, MTV, you responsible for so much pain in the country.
Deepak made
And
Deepak
Endemol,
made the
yeah.
show, and I've spoken to Deepak about it. So, okay, Tarun, you can reach out to me offline, and I will give you my opinion there.
I went to Deepak's wedding. He was still with us at that point. I remember I forgot to give a gift. I still, how many years had passed? I'm thinking one
That's
day I must
okay.
go back.
I should be meeting him end of the month. I can pass on a piece of cake.
कुछ तो दे दो यार मेरे side से कुछ तो दे दो कम से कम. Give Silvery's number to him at least as a present.
Do it.
Not
Do it.
all
I
over
don't
again.
mind. Yeah.
I want to ask you one last question as we end. Do you still handle Ravi Ashwin?
Yes, we.
Can you pass on a message? I'm a huge fan.
We-
Really,
100%.
I think he's fantastic. I thought his batting in the Sydney Test was iconic.
100%.
And then, for me, that really changed the way India played. That partnership between him and Hanuman Vihari, and what happened after that is history. But I think he's really not been given the due that he should get with the figures he has. And even I know in South African wickets, he's not going to take 8 for 20, but he's a fantastic guy. I bow to him, and I want you to tell him that.
He's a very good interviewer. Maybe you and he should get together and do something.
Would love to. Huge fan. Really huge fan. I really think he's not got enough plaudits for what he's achieved.
Yeah.
He's second to none. Look at his record, second to none.
Yeah.
And with 5 or 6 Test centuries to boot, bro. This is one of the great cricketers of all time. We should remember that.
Yeah. It's like I keep saying, why is Jacques Kallis not sung more often? Right? He's such a great all rounder. Probably he's the Gary Sobers of our era, but nobody talks about Jacques Kallis anymore.
No, because he had buck teeth. Ashwin's better looking. These little things make a difference. You got to market them.
I agree.
Okay, Vijay, we're pulling your leg, but that was a great lecture from you. Thank you so much. The dynamics of marketing, how to survive. I think a huge lesson for everyone who's interested, which is that it's all to do with the attitude. Everything comes after that. I think, Vijay, your attitude hopefully will permeate across this country. Make us great again, to quote Donald Trump. In a way.
Thank you so much.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.